This story is about Leo, a hero who saved the world from Erebos 5,000 years ago, was erased from history, and reincarnates to uncover the reason behind his erasure while growing stronger. 5,000 years ago, during the Age of Despair, humanity stood on the verge of extinction. To save the world from collapse, four great heroes rose to face Erebos, the genesis of evil. They were Luna, the elven archmage and poet of the stars; Duino, the dwarven master and divine blacksmith; Aran, the courageous beastman warrior; and Lycinus, the wise king of dragons. Amid the final battlefield, a man named Kyle was desperately trying to heal a gravely wounded Lycinus. The dragon, barely clinging to life, had called out to Kyle, but Kyle urged him not to speak, focusing all his energy on the healing spell. Despite Kyle's efforts, Lycinus told him it was already too late. He urged Kyle to take his dragon heart and keep moving forward. He noticed Lycinus doing something. The dragon, reminiscing about their first meeting, handed over his heart, saying they would save the world. Tears welled up in Kyle's eyes as he cursed the dragon for making such a sacrifice. Lycinus apologized for leaving everything in Kyle's hands. As Kyle reached for the heart, he began naming his fallen comrades, Lycinus, Aran, Dueno, Luna, and thanked them for standing with him. The moment he took the heart, a surge of immense power erupted from his body, signaling the beginning of the final stand against Erebos. Kyle, holding the dragon heart in his hands, was consumed by a surge of overwhelming power. With unwavering resolve, he declared that no matter what happened, even if his body burned to ashes, he would consume Erebos' soul. In a final act of defiance, he charged forward and unleashed a powerful slash with his sword, aiming to end the battle once and for all. The story then shifted to the present day, where a woman named Reyna was reading a storybook to her baby son. She recounted the legendary tale of how, on the night when the skies echoed with a great kaboom, the wise dragon king Lycinus sacrificed himself to drive away Erebos, the genesis of evil. Someone nearby remarked that Reyna had probably read that story over 100 times. She simply smiled, explaining that her son Leo loved the book more than any other. To prove it, she called to him affectionately and began to read the opening lines once again. Long, long ago, before even the olden times, specifically 5,000 years ago. Reyna beamed and said that he clearly loved the story. But unknown to her, within Leo's mind the infant was screaming in frustration. As Reyna began to repeat the tale yet again, Leo's thoughts grew louder. He questioned why she kept saying, "What happened 5,000 years ago?" as though he hadn't been there himself. So why, he wondered bitterly, had history completely erased his name? The story picked up 15 years after Leo's reincarnation, at the prestigious Royal School of Delan. A teacher stood at the front, passionately lecturing. He reminded the class that they were living in the age of heroes, and that 5 millennia had passed since the hero record first appeared in the world. The teacher spoke of how the lower world had transformed drastically since then. He added with pride that their very own school, Delan, had been selected to host this year's Lumaine entrance exam. He encouraged the students, suggesting that among them could be future heroes, whose names might one day be etched into the record. But his enthusiasm was abruptly interrupted by the sound of someone snoring. Irritated, he turned his attention to a student who had clearly fallen asleep mid-lecture. He called out to Leo, accusing him of knowing the material so well. To test this, the teacher asked him to name the ritual used 5,000 years ago to become a hero. Leo Pluff lazily responded that in the past, simply earning fame was enough for people to start worshipping you. The teacher, clearly unimpressed, asked if anyone else could give a more scholarly answer. Another student, Gullivan Tratton from the House of Tratton, known as the kingdom's greatest magical prodigy, raised his hand. He explained confidently that in ancient times, there was no way to be acknowledged directly by the gods. Instead, one had to undergo a sacred rite, such as the ritual of blood, to be recognized as a hero. The teacher praised Gullivan, calling him the pride of the kingdom, and expressing high expectations for his performance in the upcoming Lumine exam. Meanwhile, Leo thought to himself with annoyance that meeting gods had been simple in his time. He scoffed at the mention of holy rituals, muttering internally that it was all nonsense. A narrator spoke of a miracle gifted by the gods, The Hero Record, a divine blessing bestowed upon the lower world to honor the legendary heroes who once faced Erebos. As the narration ended, a hand was seen gently closing a book. Leo, now a student in the present day, sat in silence. Later, during class, a group of excited students gathered by a window, pointing eagerly at the insignia displayed outside, the emblem of the mighty Zerdinger clan. A school-wide announcement echoed through the halls, summoning all students to the auditorium for a special assembly. The Zerdinger clan was paying a visit. Among the commotion, Gullivan approached Leo, trying to sound casual. He asked if Leo planned to show off and try to get noticed by the visiting nobles. He replied bluntly that he was heading home, as he had no interest in such things. Gullivan quickly backpedaled, flustered. He claimed he didn't care either, insisting he only planned to observe Celia, a fellow prodigy, purely as a rival. Leo didn't buy it and gave a sarcastic, "Sure, sure." The scene then shifted to a training ground, where Leo was seen finishing up a solo session. As he exited, he reflected inwardly that while part of his improvement came from effort, this reincarnated body was physically superior to the one he had in his past life. Just as he stepped outside the training area, a familiar voice called out, asking what had him so deep in thought. When he looked up, he was met with a sudden attack. A blade swung toward him without warning. Instinctively, Leo drew his sword and blocked the strike. It was his mother, standing before him with a grin. She remarked that it had been a while since their last spar. With serious eyes, she reminded him that mere talent wouldn't be enough to succeed at Lumene, and this would be his final test. Leo and his mother crossed swords in the training yard, their blades clashing with sharp intensity. She smirked mid-duel and asked teasingly if she should start going a bit harder on him. They exchanged another round of strikes, moving swiftly back and forth. Leo, catching his breath after a parry, jokingly asked if she wasn't showing him a little too much tough love. She laughed, noting that despite his complaint, he was managing to block all her attacks. Wanting to test him further, she went in for a heavier strike, but midway, a thought flashed through her mind. She realized she may have gone too far. What if Leo couldn't dodge it? Before the blow could land, Leo swiftly evaded it and, without missing a beat, countered. His maneuver was so precise that he knocked her off balance and gently pinned her to the ground. Concerned, he immediately asked if she was all right. Lying on the ground, she looked up at her son, awestruck. She thought to herself just how far his talent seemed to reach. Catching her breath, she asked him directly if he was still set on applying to Lumene. Leo didn't hesitate. Lumene, the hero academy that stood among the 4 great academies of the races, the one most likely to hold traces of his forgotten legacy. He answered firmly, "Of course." She informed him then that members of the Zerdinger clan were visiting Dilan and would be staying at their mansion. The Zerdinger clan? She nodded, adding that though she wasn't thrilled about it, she would ask Zeiss, the clan's vice-patriarch, for a favor. If things went well, Zeiss might agree to teach Leo the Zerdinger aura technique. He made a silent vow. He would enter Lumene this year. Outside the Grand Plouf mansion, a carriage pulled up and came to a halt. A girl stepped out, her expression tinged with annoyance as she looked at the estate. Celia Zerdinger, 15 years old, wondered why her uncle had chosen to stay here. She grumbled that he could have easily rented out an entire hotel. Zeiss Zerdinger, vice-patriarch of the Zerdinger clan, reminded her of the real reason for their visit. Celia replied dismissively that if Leo was just another knight hopeful who hadn't even awakened his aura yet, he likely wasn't worth paying attention to. Inside the mansion, Zeiss greeted Leo's parents, offering a respectful bow and expressing that it was an honor to meet Lady Plov. Reina, Leo's mother, welcomed him warmly in return. Zeiss then prompted Celia to introduce herself properly to the hosts. She stepped forward and politely introduced herself as Celia Zerdinger, expressing gratitude for their hospitality during the clan's 1-week stay. Reina smiled and responded kindly, saying it was a pleasure to meet her. As Celia looked at Reina more closely, something caught her off guard. Black hair and red eyes, traits rare among nobles. Her eyes widened slightly as a thought struck her. Could she be of Zerdinger lineage? Reina Plov, the woman they had just met, was actually her aunt. Later that day, in one of the mansion's quieter rooms, Reina and Zeiss sat across from each other, sharing tea and conversation. Their topic naturally drifted to Leo. Zeiss remarked that they had visited the Royal School of Dilan earlier. He noted with some amusement that Leo had already gone home, seemingly uninterested in the commotion. Reina chuckled, apologizing if her son's indifference had offended the pride of the Zerdinger clan. She admitted that Leo cared for little besides his training. Curious, Zeiss asked what kind of child Leo was. Reina paused for a moment before describing her son as someone with astonishing talent. He raised an eyebrow and asked pointedly if she truly believed Leo was worthy of inheriting the Zerdinger flames. Reina replied with conviction. She wasn't speaking as a mother, but as someone who had seen Leo's strength firsthand. She was certain he was worthy. Zeiss leaned back, intrigued by her confidence. If Reina was willing to make such a bold claim, then Leo was indeed worth watching, though he added that he would still need to test the boy himself. Well, that's all for now. If you want to see more of my videos, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share this video. Watch more here on the screen.